Welcome to a Whirly Bear Productions podcast with me, Amber Williams. We explore film finance and distribution, featuring insights from filmmakers, entertainment lawyers, and industry experts. Welcome to today's episode. We have Derry Shillitto on the show, the writer and director behind the feature film, The Correction Unit. This psychologically thrilling and cinematic movie explores the question, what happens to the most vulnerable in society when the most powerful embrace AI? With intense and exciting characters, The Correction Unit promises to be both entertaining and thought-provoking. Stay tuned as Derry shares his journey through writing, funding, directing, and securing distribution for his new film. So, Derry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm very excited to have a chat with you today. So, first of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to the film industry?
Great, yeah. So I'm currently living in Nottingham, and I grew up in Luton, and lived in Nottingham for about 12 years. Been working as a freelance filmmaker since moving to Nottingham, and just building up sort of a independent group of people to make various short films, various music videos, and now we're moving into features. We are just currently finishing because we haven't finished shooting it yet. We're very close to finish shooting it, but we are working on a feature film called The Correction Unit, which it's been the greatest thing I've worked on and the hardest thing I've worked on. And I'm very excited to finish it. I'm very excited for people to see it because it has got a distributor now. And it is something that is quite bonkers. And this crew that I've assembled, we've all worked on it together. And yeah, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's very low budget. There's been, about 5 different ways that we got finance for the film, which I'm happy to talk about. And
yeah, give us a
yeah,
brief. Tell us a bit about the film, its themes, and why you were inspired to make this film.
Yeah, so the Correction Unit it's about a group of young offenders between the age of 15 to 17, and they all get picked up in Nottingham, in a sort of slightly dystopian version of Nottingham, but pretty close to what is currently, the state of the city currently is in. And they get sent to this facility, which is run by an AI called NTRAC. And similar to maybe A Clockwork Orange, this AI is used to alter their behaviors, put them from a path of criminality onto a more positive pathway. And that's the idea behind the facility, right? Using aversion therapy, using very complex algorithms to repath young offenders. But of course, this is a film. I'm kind of skeptical of AI and algorithms. So I don't want it to be a positive reflection of what, AI is capable of doing when it comes to control, that is. So yeah, it goes wrong.
It sounds like a really interesting film. I love things all AI, and yeah, I mean, obviously they could go horribly wrong, but I'll try to remain optimistic. But your premise sounds really interesting, so I can't wait to see the film when it's finished. Tell us about the distribution. Well, tell us a bit about the funding and how you've got all the funding together, because it's brilliant that you've pulled that off. And then we'll talk about your distribution contract.
Right. Yeah. So what was kind of special about this film is we cast a group of 15, 16-year-olds who have never really acted before. Most of them are from alternative provision schools and from street casts. So, and some of them have been exposed to or involved in violent crime. And then there's a couple actors who go to the television workshop. So we've mixed these trained young actors with these new actors who have never worked before. So there's one school in Nottingham, which is an alternative provision, and that's called Stone Soup Academy. And the guy who used to run that school helped fund this film. So the idea was, he came to me and he said, AI is, very topical. This is about 3 years ago. AI is becoming very topical. I want to make a film about the future of education and how AI is going to affect that and what changes are going to happen in schools. And so I started writing that film, which was very much like I suppose, an Aaron Sorkin type script. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as Aaron Sorkin, but it was, it was very talky. People talking in rooms. It was kind of rubbish. But I wrote that initially and started developing the idea, and I realized I'm not interested in particularly how AI is going to affect education, but I am interested in how AI will affect vulnerable young people. So as I was working with the guy that initially funded the film, we developed this idea that went from AI in education, and then it went to AI and how AI can be used as a weapon for control, and what how that will affect the vulnerable in our society. The initial investment was very small, um, and I'm extremely grateful for it. It was small in terms of a feature film, but it absolutely wasn't small in terms of, what I've been given previously. It was massive. It was the biggest amount of money I've ever been given in my life, kind of overwhelmingly so. But we had to work within a very tight budget, and it after, shooting 10 days, it became clear that actually this money, is only going to go so far. And this film is more ambitious and costs more than we ever thought. So we were learning on the job. So at the end of last year, we had shot 10 days with the money, with the initial investment. We cut together a teaser trailer with that, the 10 days of footage. And then from that teaser trailer, we got a distribution deal. And that was only after maybe 40% of the film was shot. Um, but we knew what we were doing because we prioritized certain scenes that would be, sexy for a trailer or, you know, and it worked. And we got a
That's a
distribution
really
deal
good
off the back of a
idea.
teaser.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think if you, it's a catch-22, isn't it? Because it's a risk because you're picking out scenes that might be more expensive to do, to shoot. Maybe they've got action sequences, maybe they got like certain drama and they take more time to plan and they cost more money. So you could prioritize them with your initial investment, but then you risk, shooting 10 days on just maybe 25 pages of your script when if you did it another way where you shot cheaper, you could potentially maybe fit in like 40 pages if you're really economical. So we risked it and we made that decision. We kind of knew what we were getting into. Things haven't, we didn't expect it to go the way it has now, which is like a story in itself. I mean, it's amazing experience, but honestly, every day there's something new that I'm learning doing this film.
That's brilliant.
Um, yeah.
So what were the other ways you got funding? You did a crowdfunding campaign as well, I think, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We did a crowdfunder campaign in we were smart about it. So we just did it in, January, which is just a terrible idea. And like we thought, yeah, that's not,
No one's got any money.
no one's got any money. No one wants to put money to like some film. Nottingham, I don't know if you know this, Nottingham just went bankrupt, like the council in Nottingham.
No, I don't know. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the city filed for bankruptcy uh last year. And so that added to everything. I mean, we're trying to get we're trying to get people to put money into a film, but the city can't even pay its bills. So yeah, it's very interesting. But we were extremely grateful to the 79 people that did put money in. And we didn't reach our target of £10,000, but we got halfway there, and that went, a long way to actually getting these film days booked in. So to break it down, because there's a few different ways that the film's been financed, so maybe I'll just sort of go through them if that's useful.
Yes, yes, please. Yep.
Great. So yeah, we got the initial private investment, which was the main chunk of money, and then we shot with that, got the teaser trailer together, and then using the distribution agreement that was used as like leverage to get more money. So people now that they knew that it's going to be distributed, we could convince people easier. So we spoke to some investors who put in smaller amounts, bits, smaller bits here and there, and we kept gathering that, sort of chipping away to try and get to the total that we need. And also we did a crowdfunder as well. So we've got people invest in money. Three other investors put smaller amounts in, and then there was this connection, this producer in America that was also, marketing our pitch deck and stuff like that, trying to get more people to invest, and then the crowdfunder as well. So that's how we accumulated a certain amount of money, but it wasn't still enough to finish the film. And it wasn't until we went back to the distributor and said, look, we do need money to finish this. Um, give us some money. And they did. So it's yeah, it's fortunate, but it took a while to have like the guts to go back to the distributor because they saw a teaser back in September and they liked it and they wanted to distribute the film and they knew what situation we were in, but they didn't necessarily know that we didn't have enough money to finish the film at that point. So when we did go back to them and say, look, we don't have enough money to finish this, will you help? It was a bit tense because we didn't want them to lose faith, but they believed in it and they gave us an advance, and so we can finish shooting the film now. We're gonna shoot 4 days, 4 or 5 days at the end of May, and that'll be it. That'll be everything in the can. 21 day shoot in total. So you can imagine what that's been like. And
That's quick. My God.
yeah, it's insane because we're working with 15 and 16-year-olds as well. So it's been in fact it will be I say like it'll be 25 days. Yeah, but still it's a tight, insane schedule. Um and yeah, so we were able to do that. And then we're taking the new trailer, a new poster to Cannes, trying to get some pre-sales, and the distributor's going to be there selling it on the market. I'm going to be there pretending I know what I'm doing, and it should be good fun.
So what's the distribution deal at the moment and who's it with? Can we know
Yeah,
who is it
yeah.
with?
So it's with Vision Films, who, if you go on their site, they do a lot of low budget stuff. They're definitely into genre. They're very much more into genre, and our film fits into, it fits into sci-fi action, and uh, and I think it's got an element of grit which only sort of British films have. But it's an entertaining. The way I'm selling it now is it's an entertaining B movie with a concept and an interesting theme, and it's exciting. But there's something underneath which hopefully people watch and be like, okay, there is a story here and there's a theme here which is a bit more. It has a bit more depth than maybe I expected when I tuned in to watch the film. So our producer Luke Radford, who I've known for years, is a good friend. He had a film distributed with Vision previously, and that did well, and that got an international distribution, got onto Netflix, got onto Freevee, and most streaming sites had it. So when we did send them the teaser, they knew Luke already, so we had that connection already, which was really, really helpful, and they
Yeah, that
believed
is.
in it because yeah, and that was it. I mean, like, I don't know if they would be as eager to go with it if they just saw the trailer without knowing who we were. So that really helped. But I mean, the first time Luke did contact them with the previous film's trailer, they didn't know who he was then, and they still took a risk.
Okay.
I think yeah, Lisa Romanoff, who runs the company, she is interested in taking risks on these, low budget films because I think she understands how to market them. She understands how to work them. She knows that there is definitely a space for them. And yeah, it's great to work with her. Actually, she's been really, really, really nice and generous and helpful.
Um, so who made the pitch deck? I quite like the pitch deck. That was cool.
Well, thanks. Okay, yeah. So Ashley Carter, who is another producer. So me, Ashley, and Luke are producing this, and we are friends. We've known each other for years, and I've been a nightmare to work with. In all honesty, like they've put up with so much because we're we're putting our own money in at some points. We're like stressed to the max, and they've had to put up with a lot, particularly when I've I am the writer director on this film as well. So there's certain things that I'm probably more precious than I should be, and I'm having discussions with them about how we're going to make it possible. and it's a hard time. But yeah, they Ashley did a great job on the pitch deck. All of the photos for the pitch deck were taken by a fantastic photographer called Adrian Vitaleshi, who you notice how I just said his second name
That was
because it's hard to
beautiful.
pronounce. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's amazing, and that's why the pitch deck looks so good. Really, his photos are so good, and they capture the style of the film. And yeah, he's just a fantastic photographer, and that was extremely helpful. And then all of the written stuff for the pitch deck was myself, and the pitch deck's been really helpful because the teaser that we do have gives a flavor of what is in store for the film, but the pitch deck shows the sort of the heart of the film, right? Which the trailer doesn't have. So they work hand in hand. And but once we get a full trailer cut, which is going to be cut in this week actually, then we're basically combining what's in the pitch deck with the teaser. And so we've got the heart, we've got the action and the drama, but we also, why are we following these kids? Why are we interested in them?
Yeah, you're right. They do work very well together. Um, so in that budget, did you put some money aside for marketing?
We haven't, but we've learned to do that now. So I'm going to be honest with you, Amber. We are learning on a job. It's like it's a thing where, I worked with the BFI on previous productions, so I have an understanding of, how to create budgets and how to sort of manage crews of up to sort of 30, 40 people. But this production, we've employed over 100 people, and we didn't put a marketing budget together because we didn't even know we were going to get distribution. We were just like sort of going by the seat of our pants or whatever the saying is. So now we have, and I think I'm trying to market it in a way where the story is about the young actors involved because I think they've done such an amazing job. It's kind of crazy how good the acting is in this film, considering none of them pretty much have done anything this size or acted at all. And yeah, like Sonny Middleton, Sonny Lake, Elise Bradshaw, and Zach Hopkinson, and Anik Taylor and Neve Gregory have been involved in this production since August last year, and they've been so dedicated. Holly Pitt as well, I'll add her to the list. And yeah, so the way we're marketing it is through them in a way, and that's helped us because it's free marketing. They've got a lot of friends because they're very popular on social media,
Yeah,
and
that helps. Yeah.
they spread the word. And I think, I can't tap into TikTok or Instagram much because I'm not very good at it. But 15 and 16-year-olds, they know how to do it.
Yeah.
So they'll share videos, images, and stuff like that. So up until now, we've kind of relied on word of mouth, um, and stuff that we can design, like the pitch deck, like the trailer, which me and Luke edited ourselves, like the poster that is currently being developed by the distributor. But we are going to put together a marketing. I was listening to a guy that he had on the other week. Can't remember his name, but he said basically you need at least 10 grand for marketing.
Yeah,
So
that's what he
that's what,
did. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what we've done. What was his name again? What was, uh,
I practice saying his name as well. Sarah Venatney.
yes. Oh, yes, 10 grand. And so from that, uh, I've sort of thought, right, 10 grand's the marketing budget then. Let's work with that. We're using the remaining 50% of the minimum guarantee from the distributor to put towards the marketing. So once we've finished the film, we'll send it to the distributor. Um, Everything's signed off, the QC, the quality control is done, and then they give us the remaining 50% of the minimum guarantee, which is some distribution deals have a minimum guarantee, other distribution deals have what is now, like I know now, is called a gross corridor agreement. I don't know if you know anything about gross corridor agreements. They're quite a new thing, apparently.
Tell us,
Um,
share.
yeah, so essentially, uh, instead of buying the film outright from you. So most minimum guarantees, they can be like 15 grand, right? For instance. So you sign the distribution agreement, you get half of that 15 grand up front, and then the other half on completion. That's a minimum guarantee. A gross corridor agreement, they don't give money, they don't give money up front. They give you a percentage of distribution sales as soon as they come in, because normally it would take a few months, sometimes up to a year, for expenses to be reclaimed by the distributor, by the anyone that's involved in the PR, the sales agent and all that stuff. So when the expenses are reclaimed by the distributor and all of those, the crew that are involved, the investors, all of that, a gross corridor means that some money goes back to the production immediately. But we didn't really understand what that meant at first, and it sounded like it was a rip-off as well. From my perspective, it was like, what, you're not going to give any money, and then I'm going to get a gross corridor agreement. What, a gross corridor sounds like you're in like a nasty
Sounds
corridor.
awful, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
that we're in a gross corridor agreement. But it is a thing that's happened, particularly when the strikes are on. It is more common now, particularly with lower budget films, because it's a risk for the distributor to put money up front straight away.
Mm.
They're going to have to spend their expenses will, they could be 20 grand, they could be 50 grand of expenses. So it is quite expensive. So they don't want to take a risk. So they give you a gross corridor agreement and then spend the expenses money. Um, it is still within their interest to sell the film as best they can, right? It's not going to make any difference in terms of how well they can sell the film, but it's just we don't immediately get any money. But we eventually got a minimum guarantee on the contract, so that was okay for us. Other people might get a gross corridor agreement, and if you do, and I'm speaking to anyone else in our situation, if you do get offered a gross corridor agreement, just consider it, spend some time with it, speak to someone that knows what they're talking about, and just think, is it worth doing this in the situation we're currently in? And because you might not see money for a while, can we hold out until we get that money? Um, but yeah, these are things, like I'm saying, we're learning every day. I'm making
Yeah.
notes. I'm making notes for our next production. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a gross corridor. Look out for that. And so yeah, so with the distribution deal though, it did allow us to get more money. So even though initially it was a gross corridor, it was a very useful thing to have, right? Because we knew we were going to get international distribution. Um, it got a crew and like the crew got excited by it. We spoke to them, we sat them down in a meeting, and we said, "Look, we've got this contract. We need to shoot, you know, 12 to 15 more days to finish this. Let's do it. Let's finish this. We're gonna get it online somewhere on Netflix, probably on Freevee Prime somewhere. Like it will be seen by like, potentially millions of people. So let's finish this off now. Um, and the crew that are on this film, they're all my friends now, and some of them have been my friends for a long time. We basically asked them if they'd be willing to defer their payments until the sale goes through, and they've all agreed to do that. So they got paid for phase one of production, and then phase two, all of their payments are deferred. Which, if you're fortunate enough to make money elsewhere as a freelance filmmaker, you can do that, and a lot of them are working full time as freelance filmmakers. So I felt okay, saying that, you're not going to get paid for essentially 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, it can be a
Um,
long time.
yeah, it
Mm.
can, and you can't sugarcoat it. You need to put that in a contract, make it very clear that the payment could come, down the line. But they believe in the project. All of them, every single one of them, believe in it, and they see how good the acting is, so they're willing to do it. And we have a great time on set anyway, so it's that's helpful. Uh, maybe sometimes we have too much fun. And actually, I'm thinking,
To get more
you know,
work done.
yeah, it'd be cheaper if we got this like in the can like quicker, but
You're an
yeah. So
extremely quick turnaround as it was. How have you got any tips
mhm.
on getting the best out of new actors, first time actors?
Yes, and this is something also that I've learned on the job. And initially, I think the idea was to build a script that was built around their characters. So I think, you know, read Judith Weston books. Judith Weston, who wrote Directing for Actors, I found that really useful. But she says in that book, she makes it adamantly clear, like, do not cast people that don't know how to act or haven't acted, or you know. Uh, so I did that anyway. But the idea behind it was they're cast because they're playing a role which is not too dissimilar to their own character.
Yeah,
So yeah, so like they're aware of like the world that the character lives in, right? It's not like outside their parameters. It's something that they understand because they're experienced in what the character experiences.
take a lot
So
from their own
we
lives.
exactly, and we were very particular about who we would get in, and we auditioned about 60 young actors, and we cast um, seven main roles, and then another 10 supporting roles. Most of the supporting roles were from Stone Soup Academy and Nottingham College, and then some of the main roles were from Stone Soup Academy, Streetcast, and then TV Workshop, which is famous for having like Jack O'Connell went there, Joe Dempsey, Vicky McClure, Bella Ramsey went there, um, and so when we got into these auditions and rehearsals initially, I would just chat to the actor and I would just get to know them, get to know what they do. Like Elise, who plays Tish in the film, she's an amazing dancer. And so we incorporated that into her character. Like I
Mm.
said to her, like when you're on stage and like what you're doing, when you're preparing to dance, you need to, you're aware of the beats, you're aware of like what marks you need to hit, right? When you're acting, you just need to be present and just respond to people like I'm speaking to Elise, I'm in the room and speaking to her. I can sense that she's a charismatic individual. um it turns out I gave all this talk and I sat her down and I broke it down, and yeah, don't be afraid to go on in front of the camera, it'll be fine. And it turns out she's absolutely excellent. She didn't need any of my help. Like she knows all of the protocol of being an actor because she's
Oh.
been trained as a dancer. She understands like the discipline of like doing takes and giving new options on each take, things like this. I don't need to do anything with her at all. It's she memorized all of her lines within like 2 weeks of getting the scripts. Like
Wow.
it's dancers, man. Dancers are disciplined, aren't they? So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
know. Yeah. So I think we what worked in our favor with the first timers is they were playing like something that's very similar to who they are in everyday life. And I liked how funny and weird they are. And no, that sounded bad, but it can be weird sometimes. Particularly Zach, like he plays Jacob in the film and he says some outrageous things, like outrageous. And so I wrote it in the script. And it's
So
like,
some of it was kind of improvised then, sort of.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of
And
it
how
was,
long did
yeah.
you
I think
spend in sorry, go on.
yeah. No, I was saying, yeah, a lot of it was improvised, yeah.
That's good. I love that. How long did you spend in rehearsals? And then we'll get back to the money side. We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, no, I'm really interested talking about rehearsals because I've learned so much from them, and I know going on to the next production, which hopefully some of them will be involved in as well. I'm going to take on what I've learned from like spending time with them. So we had rehearsals from July last year up until the end of August. Uh, I met them once a week, maybe once every other week, just as and when we could. We hired out like a really cheap space at Fisher Point Studios in Nottingham, which is like it's a place that could be a creative hub in like 5, 10 years, but at the moment it's being built up. Like it's a bit like occasionally the water doesn't work and stuff like this. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally the lights, it looks like the Titanic in there sometimes. You have to like shine a torch to get to the toilets and stuff like that. But
It's
it's
affordable.
cheap and yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, occasionally, but then I think in a couple of years it's going to be a great place, and the people that run it, Ian and Trisha, are fantastic, and they've helped us out big time. And yeah, so we ran some rehearsals in there, and so overall probably spent about 15 to 20 hours with the kids before production, and then on production in the downtime, I'd always spend time with them. So Will Cartman, our DP, who's excellent, who I can't thank enough for everything that he's done on this film. I sometimes tell him the setup, and he's done his prep, so he knows what needs to be done, and then I'll spend time with the actors. So we're constantly rehearsing. Sometimes we're rehearsing on camera as well, which I'd rather not do, but sometimes that's just the way it is. And yeah, there's a couple of benefits to spending so much time with them. They keep getting better and they keep understanding their character, and they keep understanding the camera as well. But now, because of how much we have learned over the last 6 months, now I want to reshoot some of the stuff that we've already shot. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
But this is a terrible way to think, because it's like
You could do that
it
forever
is
though,
it
probably, couldn't you? Being a
exactly.
creative.
Yeah, there's always things that need to be tweaked, and you know um but yeah, I mean, it's only me that's going to notice that, because all of this was shot well out of order. I don't think anyone will really understand uh, how an actor's developed over 6 months. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so the rehearsal was hilarious. It's just like it's kind of mad doing these rehearsals for like 1 hour at a time, where we're trying to remember lines. Some actors like Elise, Sonny, Anik, and Holly and Neve have got the lines down, and then others haven't even looked at the script, haven't even haven't even like they don't even know what they're doing in the room right now. And I'm like, well, this is you've got to do this scene, and then they're like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure, and then they just do it. It's really good, but I've only told them about the scene like 5 minutes ago, right? They should have read the script ahead of time. But
That would drive you
um,
around the bend. You must have a lot of patience.
yeah, yeah, they said. In fact, they said I'm very patient, but I think for me it works because it's like I know I can trust them, so I don't get frustrated because I know eventually they will get it. And there's never a moment where they're like doing it terribly either. There's always something interesting about it. They've still considered something, even if it's like the consideration is there and then. There is still a consideration. So, and they have got better. Like they are now starting to. Some of them are starting to read the script before turning to set. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
uh, but
It sounds very fresh
um,
and interesting though. Mm.
it is. I think it doesn't look like it hasn't been thought through though, which is good. I think like I watched an assembly cut just the other day, and you wouldn't tell that some of the actors in the early stages didn't know the full like arc of their character. They it looks like they know what where they are in the development of the character and stuff. And and that's great, and I can't thank them enough for like the effort they've given. Um Extremely thankful for like the crew and cast on this production. Like it has been the greatest thing I've worked on by far. Like I can't wait until some of the actors get opportunities off the back of this. Like some of them hopefully will get agents. I think they should. Like if any agent is watching this film, I think they should definitely be in contact with these actors, because I think they got careers ahead of them. I'm very excited about that. And some of them off the back of the work that they've done with us have auditioned for the TV workshop and got in. They've got into the TV workshop. So, and that
Brilliant.
place is, yeah, I mean, it's amazing that like that place is a nationally known, uh, it's nationally known for producing high quality actors. So yeah, I think they definitely, if they want to, they've got careers off the back of this.
That's fantastic. What a beautiful story. Um, so what have you learned about the funding and distribution? What would you change next time around? So you've probably got another project up your sleeve, perhaps.
Yeah. Uh,
What are you
yeah,
thinking?
the first thing I would definitely change is have the money in the bag before even going anywhere near filming. Um, I think I won't do the seat of the pants thing ever again now. I understand why it's done, and in fact, I say I won't do it again. There might be an opportunity, there might be a time where I have to do it again.
An
But
opportunity.
yeah, so I think uh it's stressful because like there's times where some bills need to be paid and you got 30 days on the invoice and you're like, where is that money coming from? I've had to put a lot of my own money into it. I've had to take out loans to cover costs and things that a lot of filmmakers talk about, which now I wouldn't do. And I think now it's just a case of like, right, how much money do we have? With my experience, what can we do with that money? Can we feasibly make this film for that money? And what circumstances need to be put in place to ensure that we can make it for that money? And then we do it. Whereas, from this one, that wasn't the case. Um, but and then so that's the main thing that I've learned. That's the big thing. But other than that, I think if you treat your team really positively and really nicely, and make sure that they are getting something out of the production, like it's fulfilling them in some way, and it's not just turning up to shoot something for the sake of it, then you're going to have a better film. Like the energy and buzz that happens every time we're on set, you can clearly feel that everyone wants to make something that has something to say, and like it feels like this is a Nottingham film about people in Nottingham who maybe could benefit from getting a break. Do you know what I mean? So uh, it's something that you can get behind, and that's been amazing. And I think I owe all the crew many favors, and I'm going to return them all. It might take me like 10 years to do it, but they will. I will return these favors. And then yeah, finally, I think there's so many sort of uh, little tricks that you can pull to get the finance. Like tax credits is one of them. Other things like getting leverage off the back of a distribution deal is another thing. Doing crowdfunders uh, in-house, something I didn't really consider before, but you have public crowdfunders, but you can also do, behind closed doors ones, which can be useful as well because it takes away like the sort of false start launch of the film, if that makes sense. So like doing a public crowdfunder is great, but if you are conscious of the content, how good the content is that you're putting out at that time for that crowdfunder, you can sometimes do one in-house and just get contacts, build contacts of people that do have money or may be interested in the production. So this production is about the power of AI and what happens to the most vulnerable in our society when the most powerful embrace AI. So, with that in mind, we contacted professors at the local university, asked them if it's something they're interested in. Um, Nottingham has history with the Luddites. The Luddites, basically led by a man called Ned Ludd. It was basically protesters who refused to allow lace industry to be machines to take the roles of employees. And people say like you're a Luddite is a negative thing, like it has a negative connotation right now. It seems like you're not up to date, you're not keeping up with the latest technology or whatnot. But the Luddites actually stood for workers' rights, and they stood for like ensuring that machinery doesn't take over the role of the human, and what we can do with our bare hands, like embroidery and things like that. has value. It stands for something. So this, because this is a Nottingham production, we use that history to get in contact with people, and they chipped in money as well. People, professors, people, lecturers, and stuff like that. People that studied previous, revolutions against technology were interested. So yeah, there are ways of finding money outside of just film finance. So that was cool. But yeah, I think
I like that.
the
That's
main thing
good.
is
How did you
yeah,
contact them? Did you just send emails, and were they just
yeah,
UK based? Tell us a bit more about how you contacted them and yeah.
yeah. So sent emails out. Nottingham Uni have connections all around the world. We have connections with those unis as well. So I'd say emails are good and fine, and sometimes they'll get back to you. But other times it's best to who do you know that works for the institution and try and get in that way. And that was useful because we had a few people. I used to teach at Confetti Institute, which is like a media school in Nottingham, a great one. I went there as a student actually, and I taught there for a couple of years. So I had connections to lecturers there who knew people at the university, and then they knew people working in, the sciences. And so you pull your connections that way. Um, I think what I'm doing now, every single person I make contact with, I record their email number if I can on a database because I know down the line they're probably going to come in handy. I've
Yeah,
got a
that's so
Trello board
true.
of
It's a
everything.
really good, tip. Record everyone you meet networking and keep all of their details for sure.
Big time. I wish I did it. I wish I started doing it, 15 years ago because I think there's so many people that have like the guy Eddie Hamilton who edited Mission Impossible. Well, he's an editor. He's edited loads of stuff. Mission Impossible, Dark Reckoning Part One. He just did, but he's done Kingsman. I think he did one of the James Bonds as well. So I was in contact with him like 10 years ago before he blew up, and it just dwindled. But that's a contact that it could definitely have been useful. So I think yeah, I'm very I'm recording all of the details now, and yeah, I mean hopefully some of the people that we meet now in 10 years might be massive and give some money for another film.
Mm. So do you have a script that you're writing now?
Yeah. So we have two films that so my production company, which is called Foyle River Films, I work with, a few people work for the production company in terms of like producing content. Georgie Levers and Luke Bradford also he produces stuff and I will help him with his productions and a couple of others. We've done a number of short films and the people that did those short films have ideas for features. So what could happen is someone else will write the next feature, not me, because because
It's
I like
exhausting.
writing. Yeah, I mean the thought of I like directing someone else's script. I've realized that now, and I think writing this film has been so like it's a particularly hard one because AI keeps more information keeps coming out, so you either decide to keep up with the information or you just forget about the latest information and write something that is about the feeling of progress and what that represents, which is what we did with this film. So the next script, hopefully it'll be another writer and I may direct it or someone else may direct it and I may produce it. But we've got three features sort of developing. One's we're pretty confident we could do for a minimal amount of money on a micro budget. Maybe go through the same distributor if they're interested, which hopefully they will be. And then the other two might cost a little bit more. And then we've got one that we can do on a very low budget if it comes to that. So I think our slate, our preparation, we're sort of thinking uh, presenting to people with money and going, we have these options. Are you interested in putting in a certain amount of money? We've made the correction unit that that's being distributed worldwide. Let's get another film distributed worldwide. So yeah, we've got that preparation. There's also some BFI short films that I produced, which have legs to be turned into TV series. So we're trying to have our options, you know, ready to go. If someone's willing to put the money up, we've got options.
Mm. So is that how you funded your short films? BFI funding or?
Yeah. So we just did. So we got Georgie Lever's film Harm got funded by the BFA, and that was a great film. Really interesting concept, and I produced that. She wrote and directed it, and then another production called We're All Black Down Here, which we're shooting in July, which was also funded by the BFI, which I'm producing. There was a film that we shot a couple of weeks ago called Aren't We Having a Good Time, written by Kieran Hardcastle, and that was funded by Arts Council funding, which I directed that one, and that was great. And so some of BFI is a good source of funding, BFI network, but also there's other ways of getting funding through the BFI. But I think that I think now probably we're just going to look for feature funding. That's the plan now. Short film funding is harder to get in some ways. You have to sort of maybe meet certain criteria potentially. The story has to be relevant to what the financier wants to put out in the world. Feature films, it's more of, is your film capable of actually making a return on my investment? Whereas short films, it's about a number of things. It's a number of factors. A lot of the short films are funded by charities who have interests and principles that they need to stand by. So yeah, but then other occasions we've just put money together just to make a short film on a weekend for very cheap. The benefits, the way I have been able to sort of get funding here and there and uh, help people out in terms of getting them work is I work for a video production company in Nottingham called Simply Thrilled, which does a lot of corporate video. So if someone comes onto the correction unit and they're willing to work for a deferred payment, I will try and get them a corporate gig so they get paid full day rate for an advert for the NHS or something like that. So that's like the way I make an income. I get paid a full day rate as a producer for corporate video, and I try and get as many crew from these productions into those corporate videos as well.
That's good. Yeah, I see. Where can we watch the short films that you've produced?
Yeah, so I'll send you a link. So we've got a couple online at the moment. At the end of the month, a short film called Hollow is going online, and that's going out on Million Youth Media, which is interesting. That channel is full of a lot of different films. A lot of it's about violent crime, and it's like dramatized, a bit like Kidulthood, maybe. And Hollow is a really powerful film that doesn't really fit into it is that category in terms of the content, but it's like a Mikhail Haneke film. It's really good, and I'm happy with it. It's a bleak watch, and I produced that. Luke Bradford directed that. We worked with some students from Stone Soup in that film as well. And that's brilliant. That's coming. So end of May, I'll send you a link to that. End
Yeah,
of
for
May, Million
sure.
News Media. And then Georgie Lever's film Harm, she is just doing a director's cut. The edit was a bit rushed in terms of meeting a deadline, so she's doing a recut, and then that's going to go online in the next couple of months. And I'll send you that when that goes on.
Yeah,
And
we'll
then
put them
aren't
out
we
on
having a
social
good time?
media, so send me them all for
Yeah, that
sure.
would be great. That'd be great. And yeah, the our Instagram at Foyle River Films, we'll put all of the updates on there. And yeah, I think so we've got 3 short films coming out in the next couple of months, which we're really proud of. And like, we want to hear feedback and we want to hear people's thoughts. And yeah, they're interesting because they're very varied budgets, all three of them, and yeah, so definitely keen to just talk more about how we got that funding at some point, maybe in the future.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be brilliant.
Great, yeah, yeah. So yeah, Aren't We Having a Good Time is the third short film, and that will be online in July.
Brilliant. So many exciting things happening. I can't wait to see
Yeah,
your feature, The Correction Unit. I think that sounds great. And the
thank
brilliant
you.
acting. It makes such a difference, doesn't it? I can't bear bad acting. So yeah, we need to wrap it up. We've been talking for a while. This has been fantastic, and you've shared some really valuable knowledge. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. Um,
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's really great. It's a great podcast, really useful to listen to, and I think hopefully, I always look to hear stories from other people who are working on micro budget stuff, and hopefully this is useful. And yeah, I'm happy to, if anyone wants to contact me with any questions, I'm happy to do that as well. So you can share that information online.
you're going to have an influx. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful, and I wish you all the best. And send us anything you want us to share on social media, because we're more than happy to share it, and we want to see and catch up with everything that you're doing. So brilliant. All right.
Thanks so much, Amber. Yeah, speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.